You're finishing your 2-week course of hydroxychloroquine, correct?
Just finished, yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm still here.
Yes,
to the
you are.
best of my knowledge. Here I am. I believe in it enough that I took a program because I had 2 people in the White House that tested positive. I figured maybe it's a good thing to take a program.
Our president talking about hydroxychloroquine, again, the malaria and lupus drug that the FDA, amongst basically a global outcry of medical professionals, have said is both unproven and unsafe to treat coronavirus. But it didn't stop our president from touting it for months, then taking it himself. My next guest just wrote a piece in the Washington Post that was both hysterical and had this catchy title. We had to have him back on to discuss. And it is titled, "If Trump Likes Hydroxychloroquine, hell, he'll love camel urine." I'm going to quote here from a small portion of it that shows you right where we're headed. Trump could put his talents to use by serving as a full-time lab animal or a national guinea pig. Let's bring in the writer, op-ed columnist for the Post, Dana Milbank. And Dana, and I want to get to some of these. Do you think he actually took it? Because there's a school of thought, especially when he talked about it being on a regimen and whatsoever. It was a bluff from jump. Do you think down deep he actually did take this?
Richard, I have no idea. And neither does anybody else, probably not even the White House physician. I bet that the moment Trump said it, he believed he was taking it, because that tends to be how he does things, no matter how preposterous the actual statement is. He seems to convince himself of its truth at the time. But, you know, I had speculated a month or so ago that he was taking it in high doses because some of the side effects could be confusion and irritability, change in hair color, which we have seen from the president, and some other, suspicious occurrences that align with what he's appeared to be doing lately.
Well, I will tell you, this is funny because I had one of my kids read the article, and then at the end they said, well, wait a minute. Which one of these things did he do? And I'm like, no. Maybe the joke is hitting too close to home because you can't tell what's farce and what's reality. And I go on from the piece. Quote, first, Trump will want to take up smoking or at least slap on a nicotine patch. French researchers think this would prevent the virus. Next, he'll want to fumigate the Oval by burning the Harmala herb, an antiviral touted by Turkmenistan, and fill the air with volcanic ash from the Philippines. You know what else he might love? Covering himself in cow dung and drinking cow urine. Some in India believe this is to be particularly effective if done while performing a ritual in front of a fire. However, some in the Middle East believe camel urine to be more effective as an antiviral. Trump will be able to settle this dispute conclusively. It would be funny if it wasn't remotely possible.
Well, look, I can't tell you for a fact that cow dung and camel urine don't work. Just like I guess we can't say for a fact that hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin don't work. I did notice the hearing today, Republicans have sort of moved on. They're talking more about vitamin D now, which I guess is, why not? It works for other respiratory things. Basically, we don't know what to do still many months into this pandemic. So I think people want to have a sense that they have some control, that they have some power over this when, in fact, we don't. But if you think there's a magic pill out there, it might make you more inclined to get into a crowded swimming pool on Memorial Day.
And that's the perfect one to the next, or I'm going to quote from your piece. Wikipedia, my main medical source for improvement remedies, also lists cures involving getting vaccinated against the virus by touching your television, a $400 spiritual vaccine, the use of namaste as a greeting, and the application of a cotton ball soaked in violet oil to one's posterior. Well, I read that tongue-in-cheek because we're actually getting into the Alex Jones territory, and let's say we actually do get this vaccine. What do you think? I'm being serious, Dana, with the crowd that believes that government's the enemy, science and fact not to be trusted, when those same folks that the president's egging on not to believe anything they read or hear says, I'm not going to vaccinate myself because I don't trust it. The same guy who's been holding up the vaccine here as obviously, the golden bullet, Do you think the president, if he's around at that point, turns around and says you've all got to take it or you can't go back to school? Or will he change his position and make it optional?
Goodness knows, but you mentioned Alex Jones. He is actually promoting a toothpaste that will get rid of the coronavirus if you're interested in that sort of thing. I think there's a temptation to say, you know what, if President Trump wants to tell people and they want to believe that they should go out and get close to people and not worry about the coronavirus, you'd say, well, that's sort of it'll be a Darwinian selection, that they'll be the ones who suffer. The problem is they're not necessarily the ones who suffer if they're younger and healthier. The problem is they'll give it to other people who are old, who are sick. So it's not an issue of protecting themselves. It's a matter of protecting the whole of the country and indeed the whole of the world. So what will President Trump do if and when a vaccine arrives? I think we cannot answer that with any more accuracy than whether he has in fact taken hydroxychloroquine.
And that brings us to the final quote here, where you say, I guarantee that if the president isolates himself in the Oval and decides and devotes himself, to doing all this and nothing else, he will be safe from the virus. And the rest of us will be safer too. There's not much opportunity for mischief when you're spending your days applying violet oil cotton balls to your derriere in a room darkened by volcanic ash. And I know that's tongue-in-cheek, but he's made things harder for governors. He's made things harder for his own governmental agencies. He's made it harder, as we saw this weekend here, with scenes out of Missouri and out of Alabama and all these other places. People turn around and say, well, if my president won't wear a mask, why should I? Or he says it's fine, I'm not worried either. Again, I'm not trying to be Pollyannish, but I don't remember a time, maybe some presidents haven't been very good, maybe they haven't handled the crisis well, but they haven't made it worse and more divisive, and that's where we are.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point where we're at now, Richard. People opened up against the president's task force's own recommendations. And then there's a couple of weeks there where they said, ha, look, nothing bad has happened. But now you're seeing the cases, the hospitalizations are increasing. Now, maybe it won't get completely out of hand because there's warmer weather now. But, there are certain, laws of science, and there's a reason why people make these recommendations. Now, the president may have convinced himself because if he's taking hydroxychloroquine and he didn't get sick, that's the reason for it. But the problem is then you have, all kinds of people out there desperate to get prescriptions that won't help them. And you have other people who are just convinced that they can't be hurt by this because of him.
If you haven't read the piece, go to the Washington Post website. If Trump likes hydroxychloroquine, he will love camel urine. And who knows? More than a month ago, Dana pegged it right here. Maybe he'll be right on that one as well. Dana, thank you for the time. Up next, we pivot to the presidential race. Many states that were red as recently as 2016 now firmly in play. We're going to show you what the map is looking like and what that means for Joe Biden's chances and also for Democratic hopes to turn the Senate blue come November.